The first time I saw her, she was bent over a trash can on Fifth Avenue, her weathered hands carefully sorting through someone else's discarded lunch. I remember feeling that uncomfortable twist in my stomach, the one that makes you look away, walk faster, pretend you didn't see. But something made me stop that day. Maybe it was the gentle way she folded a paper napkin before placing it in her tattered shopping bag. Maybe it was the humming, a soft melody that seemed too joyful for someone picking through garbage. Or maybe it was just time for me to finally see what I'd been walking past for years. I was late for a meeting. I had a presentation that could make or break my promotion. My coffee was getting cold, and my phone wouldn't stop buzzing with urgent messages. But I stopped anyway, frozen on that crowded sidewalk while hundreds of people streamed around me like water around a stone. She looked up then, and our eyes met. Hers were the clearest blue I'd ever seen, startling against her sun-damaged skin and matted gray hair. She smiled at me, not with embarrassment or shame, but with genuine warmth, as if I were an old friend she'd been expecting. "Beautiful morning, isn't it?" she said, her voice surprisingly refined, with traces of an accent I couldn't quite place. I stood there, speechless, clutching my briefcase like a shield. It was October, cold enough that I could see my breath, and she was wearing a thin jacket with duct tape holding the sleeves together. "Beautiful morning." I wanted to argue, to point out the obvious tragedy of her situation, but something in her expression stopped me. "I'm Michael," I finally managed. "I know," she replied, and my blood ran cold. "You walk past here every Tuesday and Thursday. Always in a hurry, always looking at your phone." She wasn't threatening, just observant. Matter of fact, and she was right. I had walked this same route for 3 years, and I couldn't tell you a single thing about the people I passed. I was too busy climbing ladders, chasing promotions, building a life that suddenly felt very small. "What's your name?" I asked. She tilted her head, considering the question as if it were a philosophical puzzle. "I've been called many things. But you can call me Ruth." That was 6 months ago, and Ruth changed my life in ways I'm still trying to understand. I missed my meeting that day. I sat with her on a bench in Bryant Park, and she told me about her life, not in the way victims tell sob stories, but like a professor discussing fascinating case studies. She'd been a concert violinist, performing in halls across Europe. She'd been married once, to a man who died young. She'd had a daughter who grew up and moved away. And then, through a series of unfortunate events, bad decisions, and worse luck, she'd ended up here, on the streets of New York, finding treasures in other people's trash. "The thing about losing everything," she said, watching pigeons fight over pretzel crumbs, "is that you finally learn what everything really means." It's not what I thought. I started meeting her every Tuesday and Thursday. At first, I brought her coffee and sandwiches, feeling like a hero, documenting nothing but telling myself I was making a difference. She accepted my offerings with grace but never gratitude, which frustrated me. Didn't she understand I was helping her? "You're a good man, Michael," she said one morning, and I swelled with pride. "But you're helping me because it makes you feel good about yourself." That's not wrong, but it's not why I'm here. I was offended, defensive. "So you don't want my help?" I didn't say that. She pulled out a worn paperback from her bag, pages yellowed and falling out. "I'm saying maybe we're helping each other, and you just don't know it yet." She was reading Marcus Aurelius, I noticed. Meditations. A homeless woman reading Stoic philosophy in the original translation. I'd bought the same book 2 years ago, trying to seem intellectual at a party. It was still sitting on my shelf, unread, next to a dozen other books I'd collected like trophies. The weeks passed, and our conversations deepened. She asked about my life, and I found myself confessing things I'd never told anyone. The anxiety that kept me awake at night. The feeling that no matter what I achieved, it was never enough. The girlfriend who left because I was always working, always chasing something just out of reach. The parents who'd sacrificed everything for my education and expected returns I wasn't sure I could deliver. Ruth listened without judgment, without trying to fix me. She just sat there, present in a way nobody else in my life had ever been. Present in a way I'd never been for anyone, including myself. "You know what I miss most?" she asked one particularly cold November morning. "It's not the violin, though I loved it. It's not my apartment or my things. It's being seen. Really seen. Most people look at me now and see a problem to solve or a failure to avoid. You did too, at first. She was right. But somewhere along the way, I'd started seeing Ruth. The person, not the circumstance. The sharp mind, the wicked humor, the observations about humanity that were more profound than anything I'd learned in my expensive business school. Then came the Tuesday she wasn't there. I waited at our usual spot, checking my watch, feeling a rising panic I didn't want to examine. I asked the hot dog vendor if he'd seen her. I checked the park, the library, the streets she usually walked. Nothing. For 3 days, I searched. I called hospitals and shelters, filed a missing person report that the police took with obvious skepticism. A homeless woman missing. They didn't say it, but I could see it in their eyes. People like Ruth disappeared all the time. The city swallowed them up and moved on. I couldn't move on. On Friday, I got a call from Bellevue Hospital. They had a Jane Doe who'd been brought in unconscious, found collapsed outside a church in the Bronx. When I arrived, I barely recognized her. Pneumonia, they said. Another few hours and she wouldn't have made it. I sat by her bed in the ICU, this woman I'd known for months but somehow felt I'd known forever, and I realized something that split my world in two. I'd been walking through my life asleep. Working, eating, sleeping, climbing, achieving, all while being utterly, profoundly asleep. And Ruth, who owned nothing, who society had discarded, who slept on cardboard and ate from trash cans, she was awake. She was truly alive in a way I'd never been. She opened her eyes 3 days later. "Hello, friend," she whispered, and I burst into tears, not the quiet, dignified crying of adults, but the heaving sobs of a child. I cried for her, for myself, for every person I'd walked past without seeing, for every moment I'd missed while staring at my phone. "I'm so sorry," I choked out. "I should have done more. I should have found you a place to stay, gotten you help, I should have." "Shish," she interrupted, her hand weak but warm on mine. "You did exactly what you needed to do. You saw me. That's not nothing, Michael. That's everything." The hospital social worker found Ruth's daughter. She'd been searching for her mother for 2 years, ever since Ruth had disappeared during a manic episode triggered by undiagnosed bipolar disorder. There were tears, recriminations, forgiveness, and finally, reunion. Ruth was discharged to her daughter's home in Connecticut, where she'd receive the medical care and psychiatric support she needed. Before she left, she gave me something. A small notebook, filled with her neat handwriting. I wrote down our conversations, she said. Everything you told me, everything you're afraid of, everything you're hoping for. I want you to have it. When you forget again, and you will, because we all do, I want you to remember. That was 4 months ago. Ruth is doing well now, I'm told. She's playing violin again, teaching music to kids at a community center. Her daughter sends me updates, grateful that someone had stopped, had seen her mother when she was invisible. I'm different now. I don't know how to explain it to my colleagues, why I'm no longer the first one in the office and the last one out. Why I volunteer at the shelter on Wednesday nights. Why I've started actually reading the books on my shelf, and talking to strangers on the subway, and noticing the sky, the trees, the people. I missed that promotion I was chasing 6 months ago. Turns out, I don't care. My boss thinks I've lost my edge. Maybe I have, or maybe I've found something better. Last week, I saw a woman digging through a trash can on 5th Avenue. She had 3 kids with her, all under 10, and they were singing while they searched, turning poverty into a game to keep the children from feeling ashamed. I didn't walk past. I didn't look away. I stopped, and I said hello, and I asked her name. "I'm Sarah," she said, surprised to be addressed like a human being. "Nice to meet you, Sarah. I'm Michael. Is there anything you need?" She looked at me the way I must have looked at Ruth that first day, suspicious of kindness, waiting for the catch. But then her youngest daughter smiled at me, gap-toothed and bright-eyed, and Sarah's face softened. "We could use a warm meal," she admitted quietly. "If you're offering." I was offering. I am offering. I will keep offering because Ruth taught me the most important lesson of my life. We are all one bad day, one wrong turn, one tragic circumstance away from losing everything. And we are all one person stopping, one person seeing, one person caring away from finding it again. The notebook Ruth gave me sits on my bedside table. On the last page, she wrote something that I read every morning. You asked me once why I smiled so much when I had so little. I'll tell you now. I smiled because I could see the humanity in people who'd forgotten they had any left. I could see you, Michael, before you could see yourself. That's not poverty. That's wealth beyond measure. I still walk down Fifth Avenue every Tuesday and Thursday. But now I walk slowly, with my phone in my pocket and my eyes on the people around me. I'm looking for Ruth in every face, that reminder that the person we dismiss, overlook, or hurry past might be the very person who saves us. Her name was Ruth, and she lived on the streets of New York with nothing but a shopping bag and a paperback philosophy book. She changed my life by letting me see her. By letting me see myself. By showing me that kindness isn't about fixing people or solving problems. It's about being present. It's about bearing witness. It's about recognizing the sacred humanity in every person we meet. It's about finally waking up,